Это мир Авито, где я продаю эффективно. Ведь каждый день здесь ищут авто более 3 миллионов пользователей по всей стране. Продвигаю объявления, изучаю аналитику, регулирую цены, и все это на едином сервисе.
Откройте все возможности Авито для вашего бизнеса.
Hi, Jim. How are you?
Good, Sergey. How are you?
All
Good to
right.
see you.
First of all, I want to thank you very much for allowing us to translate and publish your book in Russia. This is a very valuable knowledge that car market and automotive people in Russia will appreciate. So we appreciate your willingness to work with us. And your book is a bestseller, so we will come back to it at the end of this webinar. But
Sure.
right now, I want to run through some questions to find out. First, I want to ask you some questions about yourself. Who's
Sure.
the man behind the book?
The man behind the book. Okay.
The man behind the book. So
Sure.
the first question comes sort of very naturally. And how'd you get into car business? What made you interested in cars? Why cars?
I'm competitive. I mean, you can see the football helmets in the background. I played college baseball, and my first job out of school was working for Nike in their sports marketing department. And so when an opportunity came up in the automotive industry, it was very exciting to me because the competitiveness that's inherent to the industry. And so it's a very difficult industry. It's very focused, it's cyclical. But what I found was that after a couple of years with the competitive folks, around me, I had found the kind of teams that I wanted to be a part of.
Do you like cars? I mean, do you like this business? Do you like cars?
Yeah, no, I love cars. I mean, one of the most critical things that happened to me was the first car that I purchased. My dad and I went out shopping. I was kind of my first or second year in college, and we came back with a Chevy Cavalier, which is a product that's no longer, produced. And my sister looked at the car and was like, "Hey, I am not even going to ride to school with you in that car." And so my dad was not very happy with my sister, but I was like, "Dad, we got to go back and get a better car." So we actually went back and got a Ford Mustang, a 1990 LX hatchback. And with that, it was red. It was a cool car. And so literally my whole mindset was changed right there, right there in college about vehicles and how I was perceived and, just all the cool things that come with having a Mustang.
Yeah, cars. People usually get cars that represent themselves. They want them to see the other people to see themselves sort of. Car is like a suit, right? So it.
Oh no! I mean, if you look on the cover here of the book, right, that's a 1968 Lamborghini Miura, right? So that'll give you an idea of how like car crazy I am.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. That's with the longitudinally mounted 12-cylinder engine and everything, mid-mounted. I know the car. It's a
Beautiful.
Great car. That's interesting. The first one, the first Miura that came out, they had a combined engine crankcase and the transmission. So there was one set of oil for transmission and the engine, and it went bad. It was wearing out the parts because they need two different oils. Then they separated it. They had a proper oil for transmission, a proper oil for the engine. But let's not get into.
We digress. Yes. Yeah.
But let me ask you a question. You are in car sales, and you're also doing very deep marketing studies. What is your education, and how did it help you in car business?
Well, the first time I graduated, I had a psychology degree, so I was able to think how other people thought, and that really helps out in the marketing space and really in sales, because if you spend a lot of time in your own head, you're wasting the energy, because what you need to be able to do is to think like the customer, think like the consumer, think like the buyer. And so that was the undergraduate work. But then I went back to grad school and acquired an MBA. And during that time, I was very much into statistics and analytics, had spent a lot of time with baseball. And this was way before people talked about algorithms or big data. I mean, this is like 95, 96, but I was digging into the numbers. And what I found when I moved out of the experiences I had with Nike, I moved over to a role with Toyota, and I was definitively a junior executive in a manufacturing environment. But because I was able to bring the numbers to the table, right? And the senior executives told the stories behind those numbers that I was bringing to the table. I was able to have a seat at the table. So it's just an interesting way of all the schooling came together, the business aspect of it came together, and I've been able to pursue my passion, which is cars and data and how to persuade people.
That's interesting. I didn't get, you said that your first degree was psychology, and then you got an MBA. MBA in what?
The MBA was in marketing.
In marketing. Okay, so that was marketing.
Yeah.
So you sort of put the marketing degree on top of a very deep understanding of psychology, which is the two factors that then played a role in your future success.
Yes, and I think what's interesting about it was I had not taken, the first class I took in grad school was corporate financial reporting, and I took no undergrad classes in accounting, but just understand numbers and am able to work with them. Just like you work with numbers or people, I work with both. And so does the book. Yeah.
That's interesting. So you are bringing the scientific method in your approach to business and approach to your career based on your education.
Yeah, and if you look too, not to overdo it with the book, but the first half of it is kind of that scientific application. And then the last 7 or 8 chapters kind of dive into the personalities of the dealers. One of the dealers in the book is actually from Russia. And so there's some, I won't tell you who it was, but certainly there is a guy in here that comes from Russia.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Jim, let me ask you this question. You have a successful career. You're a best-selling author. You have a marketing company. We want to know, what kind of leader are you? What kind of leadership skills do you possess? And what does it take to become successful in your point of view?
So I had this conversation with my team the other day, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on and talks about being a servant leader, right? And there's also transformational leadership. And so I told my team, I said, I want you to know that I am kind of this 80-20. I am big time transformational. What I do is I help people grow. I coach people, I lead people, I consult with people. So if your goal is to get better at something, I'm your guy, right? I also know that we're in a support industry, so there's got to be just a little bit edge of servant leadership. But based on the experience that I've had as a college athlete, as a college coach, being in a very competitive industry, I have to be able to help people transform their skill sets, help them transform their business, or I lose my purpose. So I'm definitely much more of a transformational leader.
So 80% transformational leader and 20% servant leader.
That's right.
I never actually heard that expression, servant leader. What does that mean?
Well, it just means that you like, I recognize that my role is a support role in marketing and advertising, right? And I've been on the sales side, so I know that that's who I'm serving. And so if someone takes the information that I provide to them and doesn't find success with it, then I haven't served them well. And so then there is no relationship from a business perspective. So while I want to transform them and I can help them see the opportunities in front of them, if they don't buy into the system, or if they don't buy into the program, if they don't believe, then it doesn't matter. So I don't want to go so far down the transformational path that I'm literally telling someone what to do. I need to show them the way and then help them get there.
Right. I understand. I wanted to make sure that I understand what you're saying so we can relate it correctly. Anyway, Jim, so I want to ask a little bit about what you do, about your job. And I went on your website. You actually have 2 websites. One is personal, one is company. And I was trying to sort of go around it and figure out what is it that you do. But then I figured, let me just ask Jim and find out, what exactly do you do? What kind of services do you offer to your customers?
We basically we help our customers get to where the customers are. So our clients are automobile dealers, and we help them connect with people. And I do that primarily through Google and Facebook and now TikTok and even Amazon. But we're always looking at where the people are. We also do this through TV and radio. We certainly advertise also in different languages. So it's really about looking at the demographics and the psychographics of the community that someone is in and making sure that we're communicating with them on their terms so that they're interested in doing business with you. We even do reputation management. We do anything really that the thing we started about 5 to 10 years ago was we started looking at the mobile phone or smartphone as the center of the consumer's universe. And we started marketing strictly to that. And so we're a little bit ahead of the game, but now that everything is moving to OTT and people watch YouTube and people are cord cutting on cable TV and those kind of things, and they listen to Pandora radio on their phone and they listen to Spotify on their phone and they do things on Apple TV, like everything is literally on the phone, and that's literally how we connect with consumers. So we do all that also in context of geographical considerations. And we do that in context of shopping considerations. So we're trying to find the right people at the right time for our clients.
Yes, when I was reading your book, it's interesting that you were saying some things which may actually even sound controversial. About the SEO, and some people say it, but it seemed that you were trying in your career the most effective approach, what works the best, instead of just going with what's widely accepted.
No, we have been innovators in that space, but one of the guiding principles we have, I kind of call it the innovator's dilemma. We do not want to be first to market, right? We want to be a fast second. So once we decide to go, though, we want to be in the top 5% of what we're doing, or don't do it. Because this deal where you get kind of halfway in and halfway out, that's a recipe for failure. So we watch, we wait, we watch, we wait. And then when it's go time, we go hard, we go fast, we go strong.
So there is an element of conservatism in your approach to business. You don't want to just jump into the water before you test it. So you do want to be one of the first, but not the first one.
We do not want to be the first. I call it, and it's from a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins, calibrated cannonballs, where you have to, before you send huge energy across to identify where the submarine is, you should watch the video that he provides. You have to send and shoot out small bullets to test. So as an organization, we have a theory that we want to get it right 1 time, 2 times, and then we can go to 10 times. But we can't take a big risk. Like back in the day, we didn't know if Facebook was going to be what it is today. Nobody was really sure. Just social media sell cars. And what we found over time is, yes, it does. But initially, we waited. We tested small things. And then when we found that it was actually connecting to the consumers effectively, then we started to get aggressive. Then we started to move faster. Because while things are still playing out, you run the risk of being really, really wrong. And that's not part of the business models that I like to work in.
It seems that you're already successful. You have customers, you have the books. Where do you see growth opportunities for your company and for yourself? How do you see yourself grow?
Well, I think there's a few ways that you can grow. One is through acquisition from my competition, right? That's going to be through market share gains from other competitors. One would be, another way to do it would be kind of in the greenfield space, which is where new open points occur. Let's say electric vehicles become a bigger play in a different dynamic for parts of the world, right? And then realistically, the third place, and I'm most interested in this aspect right now, is kind of the technological advances that we're capable of. So as I look forward, I see that a lot of tech and auto are getting together to see what the possibilities are, because automotive has historically been a little bit behind the curve. And so the same principles apply. I don't want to be out in front of this, but I do want to meet the market. And as more consumers are staying home and more consumers want their cars, picked up or dropped off, or more consumers want to have the shopping experience online, how is it that technology can intelligently facilitate that? And I do think that's where we're going, because mass transit is going down as well. Because of the virus, fewer people are going to fly on planes. Because of the virus, fewer people are going to take public transportation. Because of the virus, more people are going to buy cars. So they just want a clean experience. And that not only goes from like the virus aspect of it and the cleanliness of the car, but I think they also want a clean experience, an operationally transparent experience online as well. The first retailers that are able to put that together they're going to be the ones that succeed into the next generations.
Jim, I heard something that you said, and everything that you said is great, very interesting, but there's something that I heard, and I want to pick that out. You mentioned that one of the areas where you see growth is in electric vehicles, which are becoming more and more commonplace.
Yeah.
Probably not as fast as we thought they would be, but they are. Do you think that will be a separate sort of advertising or marketing rather? Why did you specifically mention electric vehicles? What sort of advertising differences do you see within that segment of cars?
Well, I think it's certainly generational. So if you look at baby boomers and really Gen X, we grew up on the gas powered. But now as the younger generations are gaining buying power, they are looking for electric vehicles to help address some of the environmental considerations that are out there. And so what happens is the value proposition and the profit proposition moves over to a place of they want to do what's right for the environment, which means they're willing to pay more for a product, which means ultimately will transition. And without getting too deep into it, I'm watching, as Tesla gains market share, right? As Apple develops an electric vehicle, as Google, and speak of advertising, Google's developing the driverless car. If you can imagine being in a driverless car, right? But you're getting transported somewhere, what are you able to do? You're able to look on your phone and engage with all kinds of advertising, with all kinds of media. So to the degree that we're able to introduce not only electric vehicles, but new technology in the form and shape of driverless cars, advertisers will actually have consumers who take in more media. I'm excited about it.
That's actually a very interesting angle, and I never thought of that. That electric vehicles present all sorts of new opportunities in marketing, not just sales, but all sorts of different opportunities in marketing. What you just said, it's a topic of a totally different conversation, but it's very interesting that you mentioned that. I'm glad that I expanded on that question.
Thank you. Yeah.
Let's talk about the sort of a meat of that book, about the marketing for car dealers.
Okay.
How important do you feel is the internet sales department for the dealers right now? And how important do you feel is going to be in the near and probably far, well, let's not go too far future, but in a current and near future? What's the importance of the internet marketing?
I think the most important thing with the internet marketing is to realize if your consumers aren't there, they're somewhere else. And depending upon the numbers, and Google Analytics provides those numbers to you, you can literally know in real time how many people are on your website. And those people that are on your website are actually shopping now. And we can, because of the tracking capabilities in the phone, know when somebody arrives at a dealership. Now, I know there's different privacy restrictions, but when you aggregate the data and keep it anonymous, you're able to know in the aggregate how the traffic is moving to your website, right? And then to your store. And those are the things that really help you understand whether somebody's going to monetize with you or not. Without those things, I'd be lost at sea. I wouldn't know how to manage the operations of my dealership.
Jim, you just mentioned monetizing the traffic and monetizing these opportunities. The question comes naturally, given that customers these days have access to all kinds of information. They know what the invoice is, they know what the trade-in is, they know what the interest rate is, they know what the dealer incentives are. So they are loaded with all kinds of information. Sometimes customers show up in the dealership and they know more about the car than the salespeople. We know that happens. It's a sad thing, but it does happen. Is it realistic to maintain profitability for car dealers? Can dealers make money in this environment?
Yeah, I think, the answer is yes, right? They have to. The business model has to continue to succeed. What I found, people are willing to pay more for proximity. So geography matters. And depending upon the situation, there's an outer limit in terms of how far someone will drive. But I also will tell you there's an outer limit that we don't talk about a lot in terms of the number of dealerships that a person's willing to visit. They're typically now, if you look at the numbers in the States, it's less than 2 visits per person. Like if you give them a reason not to buy from you, they'll take that, but they're only going to go one more spot down the road. So the closer to home that somebody can be, and probably even more pronounced post-pandemic than pre-pandemic, the ability to buy something close to where you live also means you can service the vehicle where you live. And as long as there aren't a bunch of bad reviews online, the likelihood that they're willing to come in and have a good experience with you is heightened. And if their defenses are down, your gross profits go up. So I think one of the things to help manage this is to have good reviews shared online consistently, persistently, because that is part of the profit model. People do believe in the wisdom of the masses. So they will take what other people say about you and project it onto themselves, and they will bring that to the table as they begin the experience with you, as they begin to shop with you. And if you're not dialed into that, right, if you're just letting reviews happen online without grooming them or responding to them or cleaning them up, then you're just letting gross margin walk out the door.
Let me just make sure, clarify one aspect. You started answering this question by mentioning that the proximity, being close to the dealership is important. So there are car dealer groups like Carvana, which extend their reach. They ship the car pretty much all over the state. Yeah. So what you are saying is, even though there are dealers that are going out of their immediate region, still the majority, the statistical majority of customers, the closeness to the dealership does matter.
Hugely matters. Yes, hugely matters. You're going to have not only the transactional profit of a new car or used car purchase, but you're also going to have the prospects for more profitable service business. So that is where, I mean, every desk manager should have the zip codes of the consumers in their community taped to their desk. And they should be willing to make less on a new car transaction or a used car transaction for those customers in their immediate vicinity who are ultimately going to do service business with them. Because that service business has a different gross profit than the new car business. I mean, 5X, 6X, 7X, depending upon the store.
Yes. We will know that. So the servicing the car, you buy a car once every 2, 3, 4 years, and then you service it a few times a year. You bring it for maintenance, and that's important, of course. Let me ask you this other question. It may not be directly related to your specific business, but it's important. It has importance to dealers in the U.S., and it certainly is important to dealers in Russia. So we want to get your view on that. For a number of years, there have been discussions about automakers taking dealers out of the selling roles, selling cars directly online to customers. And commonly accepted thought is that the service department is going to ensure dealers' place within the future sales model. Do you feel that the sales department at some point will become obsolete, or you feel that there is a role for the dealers to continue selling cars?
I think I'm more an advocate of like the evolution versus the revolution. And so I think for the foreseeable future, which I'll say is like 2 years in my mind, because if you get out much further, 5 years, 10 years, there's so many different variables that we can't even begin to predict. But what I don't want to do is predict the future. What I want to do is depict the present. And so the present situation into the coming months, into the coming year, involves an F&I department typically, and it involves sales personnel. Now, what you're having develop is a more educated consumer, and what you're finding is people coming to the table on the edges with technological innovation, technological advances. But I think the thing about, and stay with me on this, the technological innovations, you have to get to a ground level of support before it receives mass adoption. And the thing about Facebook was, before it became mass adoption, was it was free, right? There was no advertising. So I don't know who the company is or where the situation is going to develop where somebody gives away something of great value for free. But whoever is capable of, maybe someone who has the balance sheet to do that, right? A publicly traded company, you may see that begin to develop. I'm watching with Lithia has a new consumer direct product called Driveway. Group One has a new consumer direct product called Acceleride. But what's happening here is we're basing it on a promise that we can do things electronically, but it falls apart in the execution. So when you make a promise that doesn't have operational execution behind it, then you fail. And this is where dealers win, right? Because they can execute operationally. So if I'm a sales guy, I am excited about the next few years. This new technology is going to come out, but when a consumer spends all this time online, fills out the information, and they come in and they have to start over from the scratch, that's very frustrating to a consumer. But if I'm the sales consultant who can grab that information that they filled out, or if I'm the F&I person who sees the credit app, or I'm the desk manager who knows all the details about why it is they want that SUV, then I can actually help them. And so that's where the mindset of that dealership comes into play. And in the interim, there's huge opportunity to be a great salesperson, because the gaps between what it is consumers know and how we can support them has changed. I think it's become less about the car and more about the consumer.
So it's a great answer. It's all well said. I just want to make it compress it.
Okay.
It's your opinion that for the next observable number of years, it's safe to say that the sales department of the car dealerships will have the reason to exist?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's no doubt they will.
Okay.
No, I mean, they have to, because it sounds good until it falls apart. And when it does fall apart, it falls apart completely. So somebody's got to be able to glue that back together. And that is the salesperson. So as a salesperson, sure, learn the product, know the product, but your greatest value, where can I add tremendous value to the consumer experience, is actually knowing what it is that they filled out online. And if I'm a dealer, I want to give people the ability to shop online for my products more than anything else. Because once I do that, they're going to get connected to me electronically, and then later they come in physically.
Jim, I wanted to ask you next question about what do you feel about the importance of marketing technologies? But out of the previous questions, it became obvious that you are a big fan of technology. So I'll rephrase the question.
Sure.
What are the most important existing marketing online or in dealership, DMS related, CRM? What kind of technologies do you feel are the most important right now in marketing? And maybe you can actually expand and say a few words on emerging technologies that didn't get a hold on car business yet, but you feel they are coming and they have a future.
Yeah, I think for existing technologies, geofencing's a pretty big deal, because knowing where a customer is and being able to advertise to them while they might be at another dealership, right? Knowing that they've been to other car-centric websites is really compelling and powerful. So to that effect, we do advertising that allows us to know when somebody walks into not only competitive dealerships, but the dealership that we're asking for or advertising for. And when we do that, we track a metric called confirmed business visits. So it's your advertising spend versus how many people came into the store. And once you kind of get an idea where profitability exists, you're in a much better space and a mindset in terms of how to capitalize, right? How do I get a return on my investment? I mean, the subtitle of the book is How to Sell Cars and Make Money. And that's the goal of all these scalable concepts that we share with people. The other place that I go to more on the advertiser side to answer the second part of your question is to where the people are. And right now, the people are in two places that are relatively new. One of them is Amazon, and that's a little bit older, but for the first time, Amazon Web Services is allowing for encouraging advertising. And then the second place, controversial or not, quirky or not, entertaining or not, creative or not, it's got an incredible algorithm, and that's TikTok. So, if I'm looking to get in front of people where I have tremendous first-party data available to me about the behaviors that they're doing online, and I can advertise to auto intenders, people who are in the market for cars, and I can do it in an entertaining, compelling way that helps them remember my name, I like Amazon and I like TikTok. Older, Wayback Machine, I mean, they've been around. I think Google just turned 21, but Google and Facebook are also incredibly strong. Facebook continues to get stronger. We're doing Facebook leads now, and Google just started a pilot on Google leads. So even those two continue to evolve, but those are some of the key places I would be.
I know about TikTok, obviously Facebook and Google, but this is the first time I hear about the Amazon service. I never heard of that advertising marketing channel. This is a new one for me, so I learn as we talk. Let me ask you.
Do you have Amazon Garage, just to elaborate on that a bit?
Amazon
You have
Garage?
Amazon Prime. It's the delivery service. So within Amazon Prime, you can enter the VIN number of your vehicle, and they will store that information so that when you look for accessories or things that fit specifically to that product, it will match properly. So they start serving you better information based on your ability. And so I think there's like 67 million cars that are in the garages of people virtually, right? In the Amazon garage in the cloud. But it helps you shop better and buy better for the car that you own.
It's something very, you live, you learn. As they say. This is the first time I thought anyway, this is very interesting. Let me ask you this question. It's obviously important for car dealers to use proper marketing techniques, honest techniques that drive customer satisfaction, customer loyalty. There is interest to this project from automotive manufacturers.
Okay.
So there might be people watching this webinar who are building cars rather than selling them. How important do you feel is the dealer marketing, straightforward dealer marketing, profitable, honest, whatever, not just for the car dealers, but for car manufacturers?
Well, here's the interesting thing. And I've worked for the factory and the dealership at different points in my career. And the big game change right now is that what it used to be the manufacturer customer service survey that would come back. And the manufacturer would go visit with the dealership and tell them that they needed to work on their customer satisfaction techniques. And there are very specific questions for the service drive and very specific questions for sales. Did they get a test drive? Did they get a demo? But I'll tell you today, that's irrelevant, right? And so a lot of manufacturers are beginning to move away from it, but I think they need to get away from it as fast as they possibly can. Because if a customer comes in and the manufacturer establishes that a test drive is very important to the purchase consideration, and they put it on the survey set, and a salesperson forces a consumer who already came in knowing what it was that they wanted to buy, right, that they needed to complete a test drive, it really doesn't matter. And there's this disconnect between what expectations are and what reality otherwise delivers. And here's the brutal truth, the radical honest answer. What someone says about the dealership on Google now matters more. What somebody says in social media now matters more. So the dealership has to, must, want to, they don't have to, they get to ask every consumer who's done a transaction, whether it's a service repair order, whether it's a new car purchase, whether it's a used car purchase. And even think about this for a second, even if they can't get financed, right? Somebody who can't even do business with me because their credit scores are not good enough, I still need to have them walking away from the experience that they had from my dealership in such a way that they want to leave a positive review about me online. Because once you get to that space, you're going to get more gross profit per unit. You're going to have better customer experiences. So I think to be kind, the manufacturers just have to look at this new generational reality of how people leave feedback these days. It used to be very confidential. Now it's very public.
So what you are saying is that the opinion, the reviews of the dealer actually directly reflects on the manufacturer. So it is important to the manufacturer, to the brand. People badmouth their dealers. They don't like Volkswagen or Toyota, whatever that is. That actually reflects on the brand as probably not as much, but in some way as it reflects on the dealership.
Very, very much so. Like if you, in the book, chapter 14, we talk about a Gen Y shopper, a millennial shopper who's in Chicago, who knows she wants to buy an Audi. So she's going in knowing what she wants to buy, and she's going to go to the store closest to her, except I think they have like a 2.3 star rating out of 5. So she immediately skips them and goes to the dealership that has greater volume and 4.8 stars. So that's what's happening there. And it's really for the people that are playing in the space and winning, it's just like these quiet, silent victories over and over and over again, because it becomes this almost self-fulfilling prophecy, right? The people that had good experiences share them, the dealerships make more per unit, and then more people come in who are willing to pay more per unit. And this year, as inventory has had its different issues based on the pandemic, the gross profit per unit for dealers that have been smart about this has continued to increase. And it's the way to do it, not even pre-pandemic, but post-pandemic as well.
I don't want to talk too much about details of your book. I want people to read it because it's a very, very interesting book. But I know that you have actually split the marketing in 3 levels. The first level is to track what the manufacturer incentives are, and sort of align yourself. You build sort of a funnel, you know, and the first level is to align yourself with your brand. Where is the brand going? What kind of models the manufacturer is underscoring? Then you have lower levels all the way down to what cars you put on the site. So more or less, it's in this internet connected world, manufacturer and the dealer become one.
They should. Yes.
They should.
They should. And I mean, I'm even looking in automotive news where everybody has access to the production levels for vehicles. And as an example, I was looking in September, and Ford's production volume on cars was 3%. So guess where they're going to be, right? They have a new CEO. And so the new CEO, Jim Farley, is going to take them into SUVs and trucks like you've never seen. And not knowing that, you might approach things differently, but production is a key thing. And you can even look at other manufacturers and kind of get that early telltale as to what direction they're headed.
Interesting.
Это мир Авито, где я продаю эффективно. Ведь каждый день здесь ищут авто более 3 миллионов пользователей по всей стране. Продвигаю объявления, изучаю аналитику, регулирую цены, и все это на едином сервисе.
Откройте все возможности Авито для вашего бизнеса.
Now I want to ask a very important question. They're all important, but this one is probably one of the most important ones. I want to remind you a little bit about this project. The project is there's a big push right now in Russian automotive community to bring the advanced knowledge, best practices from leading experts like yourself to Russia to increase the effectiveness of the market. And the company that is supporting our effort is Avito. It's the largest classified site in Russia. It's actually the second largest classified site in the world after Craigslist. And they are very big into cars. They have like 3 million visitors in the automotive section every month. And they're also an official partner of ROAD, which is a Russian equivalent of NADA. And they really try to help their dealers, their clients, to bring in the advanced knowledge. So they're helping this project, they're sponsoring this project, and they want to ask this specific question. You know, people talk, I am doing this, I'm great in this, and blah, blah, blah. Could you tell us about you don't have to put the name to it, but about the specific business case where your methods, teachings, whether it was 80 or 20%, a business case where your methods were used, how it reflected on the bottom line, and if possible, with sort of numbers and the timeline. How long did it take? How much money did they make?
Yeah, I can speak specifically to a 90-day program that we did with SEO focus. And as I mentioned at the beginning, and by the way, that's a great question, but the competition is key to success. And so we had a client who was very focused on other manufacturers, right? They had lost some salespeople. They were trying to make sure that they retained market share, but they also wanted to acquire market share. So what we did for this Highline store was we actually wrote what I would call, I mean, I'm a writer, right? I'm an author at some level. We would write articles comparing their products to the same segment products of these other manufacturers. And we would record videos, and we would do meta tags and keyword tags, all this tech stuff that Google does to help them be identified by the spiders. And then, you know, we took that information that was sitting on their website, and we did something that we really hadn't done at this depth before. And that was to advertise on Facebook based on what it was that came after the click. And what I told the guy at the beginning, he goes, well, how are we going to measure success? What is going to tell us if we won or lost this game? I like your intent. I get where you're coming from. I go, oh, this is clear. It's clear, crystal clear. It's market share, right? Because that's what we fight for in our different areas of responsibility. That's what we fight for at a DMA level or a state level or a regional level. How do we get our unfair share? And advertising can do only so much, but one of the best things we can do is be able to make that commitment connect after the click. Because if I see an ad on Facebook that says, I'm going to compare product A to product B, but then after the click, all I get is the homepage of the dealer, I have failed. I have failed miserably, right? So and that's a lot of work, by the way. That goodness of the experience doesn't happen by accident. So we dialed in on about 17 different models against one manufacturer. Then we had the 17 different models dialed in specifically for that manufacturer. And then we took the characteristics of engagement, landing page behavior, reach behavior. We wrote different ad copy for each of the different types of consumer that we were looking to connect with, because within Facebook, we're able to know what it is that we're trying to do as a marketing platform. Are we trying to share information or get consumers to share? Are we getting them to the website and having them search and look for information there? Are we getting them just visibility? Because if it's just visibility and they're going to go buy the screen on their phone in about 1.5 seconds, I don't need to be putting a lot of words in. I just need to be putting pretty pictures in. So it's like knowing where our consumers are in the cycle and then taking them to a meaningful place on the website over 60 days. Well, it turned into a 90-day program. We started in October, it ran through December. We gained 26% market share, right? Like, and that's insane, but it was a single point DMA, and the other side didn't see what was coming. And so that was one of the things, and they ran, you know, not getting into the numbers, but they ran solid gross profit per unit as would be expected during a model year end closeout. The big story here was not that they made a lot of money, it was what they did to the competitor, right? The competitor just didn't see it coming. And it was really because I felt like they were good operationally. That's huge. That's the most important thing. But then on the advertising side, we were good operationally too. We connected the dots between what it was that the consumer expected and then what they got after the click. Because if you're not doing that, they're already in disbelief. They don't necessarily trust car dealers, right? But we started to elevate that trust, and it translated.
Jim, let me just make sure that I get this correctly. First of all, I want to tell you that I love 90 days because, you know, nobody's a 2-year project, 3-year project. I mean, people want results. So it's a 90-day project. You mentioned you gained 26% of the market share. Did I hear correctly that was additional 26%, or you got to 26%? What
it
is
was an incremental lift from where they were prior to that period.
Where were they?
They were down in the 8%. So they bumped up to, like, we'll call it 11, 7, 12 something. And the hit was a direct hit to the manufacturer they were going after.
Okay, so they got to 26% of their market share from less than 10%. So they, over the 90-day period, they have increased their market share by a little bit more than 15%. That's the number, correct?
They went from mid-8s to high 11s, so that's where the 26% comes in. So it's
okay. They increased their market by 26%. Okay, so
during December, which was the most critical month of the year.
Okay, I guess. So they, over the 90-day period, they increased their market share by 26%. So whatever they had market share, which was 8%, they increased it by 26%. They got up to 11% of the market share.
Yes.
That's great.
Which, as you know, and just to quantify it, I mean, manufacturers spend millions, if not billions of dollars trying to get tenths of a market share swings. So it was just, I mean, it was It was significant.
No.
Yeah,
I
it was
completely
huge.
relate to this. I just wanted, this is why I wanted to make sure that, because the numbers kind of now I understand. So over the 90-day period, they increased their market share by 26%.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about your book.
All right.
That's why, the knowledge, this wonderful book. There are a lot of books on marketing. There's a lot of books on automotive marketing, but your book has become a bestseller. Can you tell us, why do you feel your book is different from the other books on the market that talk about automotive marketing?
I think we did a nice job of not taking ourselves too seriously, but being fair and focused and balanced, right? The person who co-authored this with me is actually a stand-up comedian. So I wanted to keep it light. I wanted to keep it right. I mean, I get sales guys, and the reason we talk about like being a car dog is because that's the old school way of doing things. And that's who I was talking to, right? Do you want to get to the new way of doing things and find the money that's there? And if you do, then you're going to find tremendous success. But if you can't be somewhat introspective and change things, and not a big change, but just subtly along the way. I mean, if you just, like, one of the things is set your reminders this way. And if you do it, all of a sudden your life is going to make you aware of the opportunities you're missing, right? It's that simple. But if you read it and like, I just read it, it's not going to help you. So it had to be entertaining and really at some level, like bite-sized, right? Just enough each chapter so that you didn't get distracted, but that you got something from it. And that's what we did. It was like potato chips for the mind.
It's a very easy book to read. I have to admit, it's structured as a quiz. Again, we don't want to tell potential readers what it is, but it's structured as a quiz. It gives some very interesting questions at the beginning of each chapter, and then it relates to why this specific question was asked. It's really interesting book.
It's a really well-kept secret. I don't spend a lot of time marketing it. I'm glad that you found it. People in the industry who read it connect with it. And what I really am proudest of is that the sales consultant to the dealer principal, because that's kind of where it's directed, they get it and they find value in it. I've had people in dealerships buy the book, management, for the entire team. And it's just this great level set in terms of, hey, if we all did this, right, then we'd be so much better than when we weren't doing this. And it's not hard. It's not heavy lifting. It's like, if I just do these 3 or 4 things, my life's going to change and we're all going to do better because of it. And those stores have really enjoyed it. I know Ford gave it out as a gift to all their field personnel.
Is that right?
At one point. Yeah. So it's just kind of like a groundswell. Like I said, best kept secret.
Jim, in just a few words, tell us what this book is about. What is it? What is it about? What does it tell the dealerships? What does it do for dealerships?
It tells you how to sell cars in the internet age and make money, right? Because it's not one or the other, it's both. So if that's what you do for your profession, you owe it to yourself to read the book. You really do. I mean, it works. I guarantee it. It just works.
Jim, the last question that I have, it's a book about marketing. It's a book about internet marketing.
Yes.
For car dealerships. It's written as an interesting book on top of the business material that's in there. So it's when people will be looking at this book, it's obvious that the marketing people, online department marketing, marketing people within the dealerships should be reading this book. But tell us, maybe there are other employees of the dealerships, may not be even the dealerships, who can benefit from reading this book.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I truly believe that anyone in marketing, right, in the advertising space could use this, especially in retail, right? Because it's been transformed, not just automotive retail, but really any retail. If you follow kind of the characteristics that you can follow, you'll get better at your craft. And that was the purpose and vision in writing this, was to help the industry move forward faster. But I think it's not just the automotive industry, it's outside of that, right? It's about furniture retailers. It's about anybody that works at any of the big box retailers. No matter what it is that you're doing in trying to integrate the internet into your business, this helps you get there faster than you would if you did it on your own.
That's great. That's great. Jim, I wanted to thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for taking part in this interview, sharing your wonderful experience and the knowledge with us, and again, for allowing us to publish your book. There's a little hint, there's another book coming, but that's a little later. Also very interesting. We're written like a blog. I've never seen a book like that, but that's coming. We don't want to run ahead of ourselves. But anyway, thank you very much. And from myself, from my partners, and I hope that the automotive community in Russia will appreciate the knowledge and experience that you're sharing with us.
Yeah, Sergey, thanks for having me. I appreciate you and your sponsors, and really, your dealers too. I want everyone to continue to be successful and improve. And thank you for sharing your platform with me and others.
Это мир Авито, где я продаю эффективно. Ведь каждый день здесь ищут авто более 3 миллионов пользователей по всей стране. Продвигаю объявления, изучаю аналитику, регулирую цены, и все это на едином сервисе.
Откройте все возможности Авито для вашего бизнеса.